Richard Wilson, and I'm on a driving tour of the UK.
And the thing about the country lanes is that you never know what you're going to see when you go round the corner.
But I'm doing it without the aid of modern technology. No sat-nav for me.
Very twisty-turny.
I'm using the rather splendid collection of shell guides, first published in the 1930s, to see how Britain has changed over the decades. The shell guides sent you round the counties of Britain and mapped out where to go, things to do, and even what to eat. When they first appeared, going for a drive was a pleasurable experience.
Oh, Mammy, Daddy.
Something that's harder to accomplish today.
Good. I'm trying to reverse. Oh, shut up.
But I'm sure that me and my Daimler,
which I have christened Deborah,
will get us where we need to go. Today I'm in Essex in the southeast of England. A county with a rich variety of landscapes, delightful country villages, and ancient Roman remains. Following the 1968 guide, my route is going to take me to the Roman capital of Britain, a seafood lover's paradise, one of England's newest towns, and to a house built to entertain a king.
It's unbelievable that some people still associate Essex with dodgy suntans and nightclubs. But here we are in the most beautiful countryside.
This seems at odds with the immediate stereotypical image we have of Essex. It appears to be a county with two identities. I'm intrigued to find the true Essex, and what better place to start than its oldest town, Colchester. There's actually been a town here for over 2,000 years, and for a time, Colchester was the capital of Roman Britain.
The guy says it contains the best characteristics of all the towns, from Rome to Dublin, from Warwick to Edinburgh. So with a recommendation like that, it's definitely worth a stop off. I have to say, it doesn't look much like a Roman town so far, and I haven't seen a chariot double parked yet.
The Romans had only been in Britain for a year when they established Colchester as their main military base, and the British Army still has barracks here today. Norman Scarfe, who wrote the guidebook, says the museums here are crammed with so many Roman artifacts they look like department stores. I'm not sure if the producers have made a mistake, but they seem to have sent me to a real department store.
Which floor are the Roman remains on? Which floor?
Up. Furniture, upstairs.
Furniture. That's where I find the Roman remains. Okay. Oh, a few nice smellies.
This is odd, going upstairs to a dig.
Furniture, here we are. Roman remains. Furniture, second floor. And I'm on the first. So I'm going up here.
I wonder if someone's pulling my leg.
Here's furniture. Oh, look, there's a big sheet there. That suggests Roman remains, I'd say. Are the Roman remains up here? Are they? They're not up here. I was going to say, if they've got Roman remains, they wouldn't be in the second floor, would they? Somebody sent me on a wild goose chase.
Of course, Roman remains would be under the store. Where else would they be?
Hello.
Hello, Richard.
Are you Adam?
I am indeed.
Ah, at last.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you. I've been chasing around this store on a wild goose chase. You're the expert.
Well, kind of, yes. This
Yeah.
this is where we're doing our archaeological dig.
Yeah.
This is the side of the store they're redeveloping. And yeah, as part of the redevelopment, we get to come and investigate some of the archaeology.
It's my first time at a dig, and I'm really excited to see some ancient relics, and some of them might be older than me.
Ah, so.
Is that it? From here, I can hardly see what the Romans did for us.
Where's the Roman bit?
The Roman bit is right at the very bottom and goes all the way up to the burnt layer, where the town was burnt down by Boudicca.
It's incredible to think it's nearly 2,000 years ago since Britain's most famous warrior queen was rampaging up and down the high street and burning down the town.
Is this a very, very significant find?
We know that the town was burnt down in AD 60, 61, so any finds that we recover from that layer, we know the date of them.
Adam and his colleagues have been on this dig for months. And they say, where there's muck, there's brass. And here's a tiny but very precious find. This little gemstone is from a ring probably worn by a Roman woman back in the 1st century.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It is, isn't it?
And how much is this worth?
We don't put a value on the stuff we find.
Right.
That is a find that belongs to the people of Colchester. It's part of their history, part of their town's history, and will end up in the Colchester Museum 300 miles down the road.
I know very little about Roman history, but I know quite a lot more now.
Well, the guide promised me history, and I have to say, I found it in a very unlikely place. After the dust and grime of the dig, I think I'll stretch my legs.
Look at that. Gorgeous.
Oh, good. I see some Essex girls. It's not often these days I get a chance to practice my flirting, so any opportunity.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. You didn't think you'd be on television today, did you?
No.
Are you going to make room for me in the middle? You've all got your ice
I'm
creams.
not going to share my ice cream with you.
You're not? That's a bit mean, isn't it? Do you know anything about Colchester's Roman connections?
Not a great lot. I know it's the oldest town, Roman town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Romans introduced oyster farming to Colchester. Do you like oysters?
No, none of us.
I notice you're eating your ice cream much slower than your friends. What's the reason for that?
Because I didn't want it to dribble down my chin on television, of course.
What charming ladies, and not a white stiletto in sight. Another example of the county's Roman heritage are the oyster beds they cultivated just off the coast. They were so popular they even shipped them back to Rome.
I'm off to Mersey Island. In 1967, they had such a bumper crop of oysters, the oyster farmers had to hire a helicopter to fend off poachers. I want to see if the industry is still thriving. And, of course, I want to try some oysters. You know what they say about oysters.
Oh, that was a bit close.
The guide says that Mersey has managed to avoid everything bad that goes with seaside popularity. Let's see if that's true. Oh, look, yes, boats. Many, many boats.
This is much more like it. I do like to be beside the seaside.
This is very, I see, it is very quaint.
I wonder if I can spot the oyster man. But what does an oyster man look like? Could this be him?
Are you Richard Howard?
No, I'm not. No, I'm John Wellham. I'm the water bailiff. Pleased to meet you,
You're
Richard.
the water bailiff.
I'm the water bailiff, yeah.
What does a water bailiff do, John?
Keep this car park clear.
Yes, it's very picturesque, isn't it? It's another world, West Mersey.
Whenever I'm by the sea, I'm reminded of my childhood and the sounds and smells of growing up near the Scottish coast.
If anyone can tell me whether Mersey has changed since the guide, it's the Hayward family. They've been dredging oysters here for 8 generations.
Today's skipper is Bram, and his dad, Richard, is taking a back seat.
The guide says that the oyster farming was started by the Romans.
It was. They were farming oysters in Italy before they came to Britain, but they found plenty of oysters and ate plenty of oysters because they found the evidence of the shells what were left behind.
So, has West Mersey managed to hang on to its identity, or is it being a bit swamped by Londoners?
I think it's hung on to it. We have a lot of people come from London, have caravans here or yachts here, will eventually move here. But perhaps because we are an island, and most people who come here do appreciate the place and don't want to change it. When they want to change it, they perhaps don't get encouraged to stay.
Woo! Oysters!
West Mersey produces 2 million oysters a year. Most of them head to the tables of London restaurants, but some are exported as far away as Hong Kong.
So it's all done by hand?
It is. A couple of small ones over. One which is only 2 years old, that one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Put that in there, please.
That's big enough?
Yes.
That's just one?
The other one's fine. That's good.
That's good.
The shape's a bit funny, but the oyster inside will be good. I'm told you come from the seaside originally.
I come from Clydeside.
Good, yes.
Greenock.
Greenock.
Yeah. Greenock, of course, was shipbuilding.
Yeah.
My father worked in the shipyards as a timekeeper. I wanted to go to sea for a long while, but then I changed. I became a lab tech before I became an actor.
Oh, right.
I didn't go to RADA till I was 27. I don't think I'd like a life at sea. It's nice to get out in the water from time to time. But I think, going out and gathering oysters every day and having to do all that work by hand, no.
I think I'm becoming a bit of a southern softy, but Rich is a real man of the sea who's devoted to keeping an ancient tradition alive. I'm going to enjoy my catch of the day right next to the sea.
That's a lovely one. This was probably caught just out here. Amazing to think you're only 50 miles from London.
Sadly, that's the end of my visit to the seaside. My next stop is a controversial recommendation from the guide, Harlow New Town. Today I'm in Essex in the southeast of England. I'm exploring the county without the aid of sat-nav, and instead have the 1968 Shell Guide written by Norman Scarfe to lead the way. In it, he describes the county of Essex as beautiful landscape full of riches and charm. That's not an image of Essex I had, although I'm learning there is more to the county than meets the eye. The next leg of my journey is taking me to inland Essex and 2 places that the guide has waxed lyrical about: Harlow New Town and the Jacobean Palace, Audley End.
Harlow New Town was a regular touring spot for us. I played here many, many, many years ago, and interestingly enough, I'm going to be appearing in Essex later on in the year. You can't remember. I've forgotten where I'm going. Gosh, I didn't like me coming out. Interestingly, the guides paint the new towns in a very positive light. Back in the 60s, when the guides were written, they were new and exciting places to live. Norman Scarfe, the author, says on entering the town, "The feeling we have is of wonder."
And the towns were big news in their day.
Harlow is a thriving industrial centre, though many opposed the new town when it was first mooted. It's abreast of the times, and everything seems to be looking forward into the 1970s. The satellite town scheme is planned to reduce the congestion in London and give workers employment in pleasant surroundings.
I'm not sure how well Harlow has fared in the intervening years, but Essex author Peter May is bound to have something to say.
Now, I'm touring Essex using my Norman Scarf Shell Guide of the 1960s, but I believe that you have written another guide to Essex.
I have indeed.
A more up-to-date one.
Which is my guide here, The Joy of Essex.
The Joy of Essex. Now, that sounds slightly biased to me.
Travel through God's own county is the subtitle.
Let's come to Harlow Newtown.
It was built in 1947 after the
war.
Post-war, yes.
And it was meant to be a sort of overspill for London.
Yeah, it's a classic sort of East End overspill town. It's got a clear sort of self-deprecating wit, quite aspirational. And, you know, it's got, I think, of any county, it's probably looking a bit rough and ready now, but it's also, like a lot of places in Essex, it's a place of contrast. In Britain, it's got the strongest identity.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, maybe Yorkshire runs it
I was going to say, Yorkshire, a Yorkshireman might call that into question.
Come on, roll up! Can we get your peanuts here? All good prices today.
I can understand how at the time of the guide, Harlow was an exciting place, but to my eyes the architecture hasn't aged at all well, and it doesn't feel fresh and exciting anymore. Perhaps in 100 years it might look quite quaint, but I won't be around to find out.
Well, are you the Victor Meldrew?
I was Victor Meldrew, but he died, of course. It's a very friendly place, and it's got quite a lot of chutzpah.
My route is taking me from a modern town through the medieval town of Saffron Walden, which the guide describes as the best-looking small town anywhere in Essex. And just a mile off the B1052 is one of the most spectacular houses in the county.
This is Audley End. The guide describes it as a Jacobean palace. My goodness, a palace it is. Look at that. Spectacular. It was used as a sort of holiday let for royalty. It's wonderful.
This is real Essex architecture. It was built between 1605 and 1614 by Thomas Howard, the first Earl of Suffolk. He carried out the work specially to entertain King James I, who was the son of Mary, Queen of Scots.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Richard. Hello.
My guide is Andrew Hand.
Can I read you what my guide says about
Yes, please do.
your splendid house? The house, so palatial, faced with stone from Wiltshire and Rutland, is nevertheless only the heart of the great quadrangular series laid out by Thomas Howard, 1st Earl of Suffolk, who ruined himself by spending public funds on it.
Yes.
Is that about right?
I think, yes, very much so. There were specific doorways here for the King and Queen, but they would each have their own entrance.
Oh, and whose entrance was this?
This was the Queen's entrance.
So the King and Queen would be travelling together, but they'd go in different doors?
Yes, they would, because they had their own suite of rooms on opposite sides of the house, and they had their own entourage of servants who accompanied them.
Shall we go in?
Yes, let's...
Thank you. How exciting.
What a posh place for a sleepover. It's the smartest travelodge I've ever been to.
So, this is a great hall.
Yes, fabulous, isn't it?
Beautiful.
It's one of the few surviving Jacobean interiors in the house. And, you know, behind us we've got this absolutely fabulous Jacobean screen.
Oh, yes.
It's one of the, beauties of the house and the original part of the interior. The third Lord Braybrooke was very much an antiquarian, and he brought additional banners in, all these weapons and things on the wall, and all the paintings, whatever, all brought in.
Wonderful. The house may have been built for royalty back in the 17th century, but today you're more likely to bump into a group of women from the WI than Charles and Camilla.
Audley End now belongs to English heritage, but in 1963, the last private owner, Lord Braybrooke, had a thing for trains, and he built himself an elaborate train set at the bottom of the garden.
How extraordinary. So why did Lord Braybrooke want to build a model railway?
Well, Lord Braybrooke had a passion for steam engines, and as a boy regularly rode up and down on the branch line from Audley End to Saffron Walden.
So did he drive his own trains?
He did, yeah. He drove regularly up until a few years ago. He's retired from driving the steam engines now.
What's it like to drive?
It's brilliant.
Is it?
Would you like to drive?
Oh, am I allowed?
Yeah, we'll get you in there. We'll get you driving.
Oh, the smell of a steam train and the sound of an old-fashioned whistle takes me back to my childhood.
Catch it a bit. That's it.
We're off!
Well, I've been pleasantly surprised by Essex, despite its stereotypical tacky image.
It couldn't be more different. Norman Scarf in the guide says, you get to know Essex. Well, I've gotten to know Essex.
And I'll certainly be back. Next time, in Devon, I'm riding high in Torquay.
It is a stunning location.
There's a vintage bus trip to Agatha Christie's home on the English Riviera.
I sat on Agatha Christie's bed.
And one of Devon's oldest families gives me a guided tour of his home.
I think we peaked about 1530, and it's been quite a long decline ever since.
Paul O'Grady gets his hands dirty with some much-needed help for the animal orphans tomorrow at 9 in the brand new series. Next tonight, though, we're off to Coronation Street, where Steve's troubles are far from over before the mystery over what happened to those girls is giving everyone sleepless nights for good reason. David Tennant and Olivia Colman star in brand new Broadchurch at 9.